This content is personal experience, not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional. Guest views are their own.
Together, this is sick. This is absolutely beautiful. This is my first time at a food festival. This is my first time speaking anywhere in front of somewhere, so I'm pretty stoked about it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. I'm trying up here, but it is terrifying. So, my name is Matt from Mankind, Matt Funabashi. I am a rock and roll musician turned health fanatic. I've been addicted to fruits for about 10 years now. Some people think I'm nuts. I think I'm okay.
I would agree.
So a lot of the amazing speakers today are going to speak on all different types of stuff like fasting, juice fasting, fruits, diet, exercise, and stuff like that. I thought I'd stick to covering all the rest of this stuff because health takes a holistic approach, right? So that's what holistic is about. It's about combining all these different elements of life and health that work synergistically together to create optimal levels of health, because it's not just diet and you can't have just one piece without the other. So I'm going to try and help everybody connect those things today. Does that sound good, everybody?
Yeah.
All right, let's rock and roll. So this is called Electric Health, the Holistic Picture. Just thought I'd put a little spin on it. So basically, I'm going to run you through these things step by step and give you some things that you can utilize immediately in your everyday life. So let's get started. Let's jump right in. First slide, please, Tiffany. So sleep is the absolute foundation of health. Now, so many people think they can get away with, 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and it's like, we learned that it's really not going to work out in the long run like that. So it's like, it is the foundation of everything, because we can change everything in our life, but the thing is, if you don't get proper, adequate sleep, then nothing else you do is going to matter. So that's why it's so significant to get deep sleep. Now, I wasn't always someone who prioritized getting sleep, so I used to be out until 4 o'clock in the morning, partying and stuff like that, and then, about a couple hours later, I'd head to work. I actually worked at this one place back when I was younger. It was almost like a Nickelodeon Slime Time Live type of thing. And I basically ran the soundboard on it. Does anybody know Nickelodeon Slime Time Live? Huh? Yeah, come. So basically we had that. It was birthday parties for kids and stuff like that. I ran the soundboard and I controlled the slime. So, one day, Crazy Mike was the host of the game show. And there's a bunch of kids running around and stuff like that. And they're getting ready to slime the birthday boy. And he's like, I'm in the booth over here in the corner. And he's like, all right, everybody get ready. It's slime time, baby. And he's like, hit it, Matt. And nothing happened. And the reason for that was because I was asleep on the soundboard. So slime didn't come out, but after a couple minutes, and I was like, Matt, hello. I was like, what's up? And I just nailed the slime and then just came pouring out. But these are things that if we don't get adequate sleep, the body will force sleep, and it's just most people are going to crash and burn, if they don't get enough. So let's run through some of these things that we can do to get the best sleep possible, because it's not just about sleep, it's about getting true deep rest, because some people are sleeping, but they're not even really getting that deep rest. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. So who here uses a cell phone, a laptop, or computer after the sun goes down? Okay, pretty much everybody. So everybody here should have a pair of blue light blocking glasses. Awesome, this guy knows what I'm talking about.
It took me a long time to find that out.
Well, see, you made it. So what we need, and you can't get away with these glasses that are clear. They have to be a dark red or dark amber, so they have to really block out these frequencies. Now, blue light, the problem with these light frequencies that come from these modern devices is that they're artificial, synthetic, and what they do is they trick the body. So most people are ending their night watching TV, using their cell phone, on their laptop, doing some type of work, and the problem is these light frequencies, they enter the eye and they give the illusion that it's still daytime. So what happens when it does that is that it inhibits the production of the sleep hormone, like melatonin and things like that. So that is like the master sleep hormone that we know about. And if we're not blocking that blue light, then the body's going to be not producing that properly. So that's why it's so important, like, when you're watching Game of Thrones or Yellowstone, whatever you're doing, you got to wear the blue light. You're working, blue light blocking glasses. It's like pretty much one of the most like best investments you can make in your life, because like I said, if it's not good sleep, then nothing else is going to work. So it's like, buy blue light blocking glasses, block out the blue light. After the sun goes down, throw those bad boys on. So this next one is not going to seem fun, but where would we be sleeping if it was 1,000 years ago? Or just, the beginning of humans? Where would we be sleeping? On the ground, exactly. So these nice, fluffy, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, it's not gonna cut it. It's like sleeping on a cloud. I know it's peaceful and it's so cozy and stuff, but the problem is it puts the weight of our body onto our muscles rather than our skeletal structure, which is where the weight is supposed to be going. So that is the problem with modern day mattresses and sleeping on something that's soft. So I'm not saying you have to sleep on the floor, but a firm mattress would be your best bet at getting the best sleep possible for, spinal health and your posture and just overall deep rest. So what you could do, the best way to do this is to basically lay some blankets down on the floor, have a thin pillow if you want to use a pillow at all, and then you just lay down on that. I'm not saying you gotta just throw down a yoga mat and just lay down and just like on the bare wood, because that might seem a little bit painful. But, it's an adjustment period. After a few weeks, you might be like, oh, okay, this is not that bad. And you might wake up with like, the most rejuvenated you have in a while. So try that out. This next one's gonna seem kind of weird. So yes, tape your mouth. This is, not everybody's gonna be able to do this, and it's gonna look weird. You're gonna look like you're being either kidnapped or you're into some kinky stuff, But basically what this does is it forces us to breathe through the nose, which is the natural way of breathing, through the nasal passages. That's the natural way of breathing. And the problem is, if you wake up with your mouth dry, then you're not getting true deep rest. So that is one of the biggest problems. And coming from me, I've had my mouth, open for, for 20 years. I just breathe through my mouth. So basically this kind of forces you to do nasal breathing, and then you might get the best rest of your life with that. But like I said, not everybody's going to be able to do that. We have different conditions and things, and sinuses might be blocked up, clogged up, so you might need to transition your way into breathing through the nose. It takes time, but try it out, see how you like it.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
She had a question. What type of tape do you recommend?
Oh, so there's different. Who's that? You?
Yeah.
How you doing? So you could use basically any type of tape. I mean, Scotch tape isn't going to be that great.
That would hurt.
Yeah, no, it does. Especially if you don't have a beard though, so it's not going to like rip all this hair off. There's like medical tape that's pretty easy, but they also have like tape designed to keep the mouth shut. It goes around the lips instead of over the lips. Yeah.
Scarf? Would a scarf work?
Yeah, you could. It could, technically speaking. I don't know if it's going to hold the lips sealed, though. That's the problem. So you can give it a shot, but it's not that painful. It's not that bad. And trust me, you've been through more, so you can handle it. You got this.
You've been through more.
It's not that bad. Good? And then the last one is no food before bed. So a lot of people slam down like sandwiches and subs and like burgers and pizza before bed. So if you're eating before you go to sleep, you're not sleeping, you're digesting. So that's the big problem with eating right before you go to bed. So I recommend not like within 3 to 5 hours of sleep, there should be not really any food. Fruit, you might be able to get away with it just because it's so freaking good and digestible, So try and keep that little window open of 3 to 5 hours though, so that because the less the body has to work on, the deeper you can get into your sleep cycles and into the deepest sleep cycles possible. All right, let's hit the next slide, please, Tiff.
How many hours
How many hours what?
of sleep?
Hours of sleep, I would recommend around 8 to 10 hours.
8 to 10.
Yeah, that's right. Seems crazy, but it's like,
It is.
yeah, I mean, it's rest. We don't get enough rest in modern day life. That's a problem. We have so many things to do, so many stressors and things, but really, you're not going to get away with like 5 hours, 6 hours of sleep is just not going to be adequate enough like to reach optimal levels of health. In our sleep, it's the most deep processes of cleansing, repairing, regeneration. That's like, you need that full 8 to 10. So that's what I recommend.
7's not good enough.
I think even just an hour of not enough sleep, like of sleep that you need, can dramatically change your health. Like that can increase your risk for all different types of disease and conditions and your mood and overall things.
Okay, I understand all of that, but some of the documentation, I'm only just bringing it up, napping during the day. These little 20-minute, hour naps in the middle of the day, do they contribute or you not?
Naps are fantastic. If your body's calling for a nap, take it. I mean, I wouldn't do over 20 minutes for sure, but I mean, if you need to do that to make up for your lack of sleep at night,
Right.
then you'll be good. But you should have sustained energy throughout the entire day. But if the body's calling for a nap, then get a nap in.
Okay.
You can do it now. I don't care. It's totally cool. Sorry. Question, yeah.
Grounding sheets, are those worth it?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna cover that later. Actually, that's on the list. So we'll get into that in a couple slides. All right? Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next thing. So air. You can go without food for weeks. You can go without.
Was it moved?
Go back.
Oh, which one are we doing? Oh, I think
Yeah, you got it.
is air next or something?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Air.
All right, air's next. All right, let's talk about oxygen. So you can go without food for weeks. You can go without water for days. But how long can you go without breathing? Minutes. So it's like we don't stress how significant it is that we get proper air, like clean, fresh air. Not only that, but it's how we breathe. So many people are breathing wrong. And I was a chronic mouth breather for over 2 decades, which is partially why I look like I'm related to Napoleon Dynamite. So I highly recommend that we breathe through the nose. This is the natural way to filter air, to process air, to get proper uptake of oxygen into the bloodstream. So it's just everything is so important for nasal breathing because the oxygen enters into the proper space, which is the diaphragm, which is where we should be breathing into. So the problem with mouth breathing is that the mouth is connected to the chest. So if we're breathing in through the mouth, then we're breathing into the chest, and that's not going to fill the full capacity of the lungs. So, and the biggest problem that I see in modern day life is that everyone is breathing through their mouth, and they're breathing through the mouth, they're breathing fast, shallow breaths, and they're breathing into the chest. And it's like, that's just going to, bring nothing but problems, stress, and anxiety to the body, and it's not, going to allow it to carry out these natural processes that it needs to do. So this is why nasal breathing is so important, and that's why we tape our mouth at night. But this literally controls everything in the body, how much, the way we uptake air. So you may have, heard people doing breathing through the mouth, but it's like the nose is the most important thing to breathe through. So try and do that. And then into the diaphragm. A lot of people, when they're breathing into the upper chest region, which is going to, just turn into anxiety and breathlessness, So what you want to do is breathe into the diaphragm. This is between the ribs, the chest and the abs. So right here. And then what we want to do is expand. We want to expand the stomach on the inhale, and we want to contract on the exhale. So I'm running low on time here. All right, so long, light, deep breaths is where it's at, all right, instead of, quick, shallow, short breaths. It's all about long, slow, light, deep breaths. You want to be breathing almost like you can't even notice that you're breathing. That's how slow you want to be breathing. And that's going to calm down the nervous system. It's going to help you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and heal nervous system. There's two nervous systems, right? The parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Sympathetic is fight or flight mode, which many of us are familiar with. Stress, anxiety, and panic. It's like, so this is how we activate the parasympathetic and get into that calmness, that healing, that centered, balanced nervous system. Because that's where the healing takes place. All right, next slide, please. All right, so sun. Now, I'm an Irish Jersey boy. So for me, the sun was enemy number one. I remember the first time I got sunburn. I was like, this guy is trying to kill me. And after that, I was just like, I'm going to do everything I can to hide from it. And literally, on vacations, like we go out with my family, and they'd be like, all right, we're going to the pool. And I'd be like, they got Nintendo in here, so I'm good. You guys have fun. So on vacation, I'd sat in the hotel room the entire day, but that's just how it was. It was like, the sun is trying to hurt me. I need to stay away from it. And it's like, once I got into holistic health, I found out like it's the complete opposite. It is like, it's so healing and so nourishing and loving. And it's like, I learned to love the sun. And it's an adjustment coming from New Jersey because we spend 9 months out of the sun. So I have to catch up every single summer that we get 3 months of heat. But so what happened to me is one day while I was eating, my raw foods and things like that, I got sunburned. I used to get sunburned like 10 minutes. I'd go out and my skin would just burn. I'm just like, okay, this is not going to work out. So once I got into like raw living foods, I started actually truly hydrating my body on a cellular level, was when I was out and I stayed out too long, and my skin got all types of red. And I was like, oh, did it again, all sorts of burn. But the next morning, all of it was gone. And I was like, what? That's really weird. And it's like, I was able to stay out in the sun like that and not get burned. So I went from 10 minutes of being in the sun to like an hour of being in the sun without getting burned. So hydration is key. All right, so water. Water is life, really. And hydration is, like we said, is just so significant for health. But now, what types of water are we supposed to be drinking? So, structured water. This is the primary source of hydration for every human, okay? And structured water is basically water that's found in fresh fruits, vegetables, greens, coconut water. This stuff is basically, it's called H3O2. That's the name because the structure is a hexagonal structure that nature produces. Now, there is no water that will hydrate you on a cellular level like the water found in nature. Coconut water is probably the most hydrating liquid on the planet. So highly recommend that. I call it Mother Nature's breast milk. Really good stuff. So that should be your first focus. Now, secondly, we need another source of water. I recommend distilled water. Either way, I want you, you should be purifying your water because our water is just highly toxic, especially tap water. I mean, that's just straight trash. So it's like, you gotta purify it some way, somehow. Distilled water is the purest form of water. You will find 99.9% of toxins removed from the water. It is just basically returning water to its original form. We call it rainwater, basically. You can reproduce this in your house, on your countertop with a little machine. And all it is boiling the water, catching the droplets, the condensed droplets at the top, and dropping them into a catcher. And so that's what I recommend for purification of water. Basically, all of the contaminants are removed and the inorganic minerals found in the water are removed, so they're not clogging up your body or, just causing different problems. But with modern day water, the problem is everything is just completely polluted and stuff, so it's hard to get anything that's actually pure now. So this is the way that we can actually know that we're getting water that hasn't been tainted or polluted. So recommend that, but just purify your water, please.
Matt,
Yes.
there's a big movement for alkaline water that's now available, pH 8.8 to 9.6. What do you think about alkaline water?
So you can get your alkaline water in the first one, H3O2, structured living electric water. All right. The problem with the alkaline water that I'm not a fan about is that it's artificially, synthetically alkalized. Right. So I only want things that are alkalized through and by nature. That's for me personally. That's the way because I think there's can be some issues with having stuff that's like a man-made alkalized type of thing. So you go and things like that.
That's why you're here.
And we know that minerals clog your arteries also.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem, because the inorganic minerals found in different types of water, they basically calcify and they harden the arteries and they build up in the tissues and the joints, because we're not supposed to eat, even if the rocks are microscopic, we're not supposed to eat or consume rocks, right? So that's what all spring water is basically just microscopic rocks that are just condensed. So eventually those can build up in the body and cause it to kind of like, stiffen up. So distilled water helps remove all that and clear that out of the body. It takes whatever's not supposed to be in the body. So,
Interesting.
all right, next slide, please. I'm gonna have to move through this. I only have a couple minutes. All right, so movement. Obviously, move it or lose it. So this is so important because now in modern day times, we're sitting all the time. I know we're sitting now, but we have breaks in between. But the problem is we're at our desk for 8 hours if you have a desk job and things like that. And it's like the human body is not supposed to be sitting for long periods of time, right? We're designed to be mobile and just constantly moving, basically. So, funny story. My grandma has a boyfriend. Yeah, she has a boyfriend. She's a romantic, and she's a sweet lady. But so he had a high school reunion. He's 90 years old. He had a high school reunion. He actually drinks distilled water for the past 40 years, and he eats pretty healthy too. And he walks every day. He eats, his fruit smoothies at the beginning of the day. So he has a high school reunion, and they go out and they meet on the football field. And he comes out, strolling like Frank Sinatra out on the field. And then, what he sees is basically an entire crowd of people in wheelchairs and walkers. And he's like, what the hell? So it's like these people, they chose, to not necessarily live the healthiest lifestyle, but it's like, this is how important movement and, diet and all these things are, because long term is how it's going to reflect, in the body. And basically, if you don't move it, your body's going to stiffen up like a board. It's all about like function, mobility and functionality and flexibility. So it's like, don't stop moving and find your ways that you enjoy moving. I like yoga, calisthenics, rebounding, sprinting, walking, hiking, things like that. Like amazing. So it's like, find what you truly enjoy and just keep your body like moving. Stretch daily, like, keep mobility and flexibility. Yoga daily, awesome. Spinal health and posture. The spine is like, controls everything. So basically, it's, it's part of the nervous system, things like that. So your posture and your spine are just so important to maintain because it's literally interconnected to everything, and it basically runs the whole body. So I'm basically gonna have to end now. All right, so we're gonna get cut short, but guys, I'm a holistic health coach. If you guys need help, you can hit me up on social media at Map for Mankind. It's been an honor and a pleasure to speak here. Thank you so much for having me.